Oi, oi, oi! HoniGAME is back again! Poppy Playtime keeps dropping hot news, everyone! In the last video, I analyzed a series of new images from the Poppy Playtime ARG, revealing tons of exciting details about Chapter 4. One of the biggest surprises was that Mob Games accidentally leaked the design of Pianosaurus, an entirely new, terrifying-looking toy. This piano dinosaur is expected to be one of the bosses players will face in Chapter 4, maybe even the main boss. But that's not all. Poppy Playtime ARG has now revealed yet another new toy, Experiment 1166, named Yarnaby. This is the first time this experiment has been mentioned, and according to its initial description, it's obsessed with beauty and has a special connection to Dr. Harley Sawyer, the lead creator behind these living toys. So what's the full story? Who is Yarnaby and what other secrets about Experiment 1166 have been revealed? Let's dive into the latest information and some wildly speculative theories about Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. Sound intriguing? Let's jump right into the video. As you know, all the connections to Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 trace back to the ARG. But these clues aren't limited to just the online space. They're even showing up in the real world. In the previous video, we saw how players accessed the ARG system, which led to discovering 3 cameras. While their visual feeds were damaged, they could still capture audio, which, at the time, was the eerie sound of bones cracking. But now, when we go back, the audio has changed entirely. It's incredibly jarring and loud. This turned out to be the next clue, as analyzing these sounds through spectral analysis software reveals images and coordinates of 3 real-world locations, along with a message saying, "See you there." So what happens when you head to these coordinates? At each location, people found boxes mysteriously left behind, most likely by Mob Games, of course. Inside each box was a plush Huggy Wuggy, torn open with stuffing spilling out and wrapped in several yarn threads. It turns out that someone had split open the Huggy Wuggy plush, placed something inside, and then used yarn to stitch it back up. Upon cutting through the yarn, people found 2 crumpled up reports related to the assignment of test subjects within the game station area. This is the same place we explored in Chapter 2, where children were assigned a toy and made to complete 3 skill trials. The kids who completed these trials were then chosen for experiments, transferring their consciousness into the living toys. The child mentioned in the 2 reports is Quinn Navidson, who was paired with Yarnaby, a toy we've never heard of until now. So we're definitely gearing up to face another new monster in Chapter 4. Given the yarn in its name, Yarnaby likely has something to do with those gutted Huggy dolls sewn back up with yarn. The scores for the 3 trials are rated on a scale from 1 to 5. For the first trial, Musical Memory, Quinn scored a 3. He made a few mistakes but still completed it within the time limit. In the next trial, Whack-a-Wuggy, Quinn only scored a 2 due to extremely slow reflexes and often missing the target. Finally, in Statues, Quinn managed to pass within the designated time, but only on his second attempt, scoring a 3. Based on Quinn's initial scores in the first report, we can deduce he was just an average kid, not exceptionally gifted, performing slightly above average. But by the second report, meaning his next testing phase, Quinn's scores had changed significantly, this time assessed personally by Dr. Harley Sawyer. For Musical Memory, Quinn's performance plummeted to a 1. He appeared unable to comprehend the trial's rules or remember what he was supposed to do, preventing him from completing the trial. Yet in the next reflex-based trial, he scored a 4, showing a major improvement in reflexes even though he couldn't fully control the grab pack. Notably, Quinn ripped the heads off several toys during this test. In the final trial, Quinn scored a perfect with finishing in just 20 seconds. However, he displayed strange behavior afterward. When staff escorted him from the room, he ran back in, hiding in the ball pit for 15 minutes before they found him. What happened to Quinn between these 2 rounds of trials that caused such a dramatic shift? Looking at Dr. Harley Sawyer's yellow note, he refers to Quinn as Experiment 1166. This means that even though Quinn's initial scores were unremarkable, they decided to turn him into a living toy anyway, assigning him the number 1166, Yarnaby. The second round of trials was then conducted with Quinn in his new form as the toy Yarnaby, and this also means Yarnaby was created before Catnap, 1188, and Mommy Longlegs, 1222. To find further information about Experiment 1166, you'll need to return to the ARG website from before and enter the command recover with the password 1166. This will reveal 3 additional reports related to Experiment Yarnaby. Time for Honi to dive into analysis. The first note details a conversation between Dr. Harley Sawyer and Quinn, which took place after the initial testing, but before Quinn was transformed into Yarnaby. Personally, I doubt any ordinary child would think a headless toy looks better. So could it be that all of those headless toys seen in Chapter 3's earlier trailers were Quinn's work? If he had such twisted ideas as a human, you can only imagine the brutality we'll see from him as Yarnaby. From Dr. Harley Sawyer's words of encouragement, we can also tell that Quinn was deliberately underperforming to earn low scores, pretending to be a naive, less intelligent child. Dr. Sawyer's advice for him to do his best in next week's test confirms this. Quinn was actually quite clever, likely aware that higher scores meant he'd be selected for experimentation, so he intentionally scored low. However, Dr. Harley Sawyer saw through his act, and Quinn ultimately became Experiment 1166 as described in the second note. This time, Experiment 1166 Yarnaby was sent to the containment area, where the Harley Sawyer began evaluating its behavior to determine the appropriate handling procedures. Yarnaby has several similarities to Huggy Wuggy, as it belongs to the group of living toys created by Playtime Co., meaning its behavior is purely instinctual and lacks advanced cognitive abilities. Basic reasoning, language, problem solving, and self-awareness are either severely limited or completely absent. Like Huggy Wuggy, Yarnaby is simply a fierce, large, agile monster. Dr. Harley Sawyer felt immense disappointment, as he had hoped that using an exceptional child like Quinn would produce a more intelligent toy. This outcome suggests that the mind transfer process results in a significant cognitive decline. However, Experiment 1166 was found to be more docile than Huggy Wuggy, showing attachment to certain caretakers, who in turn developed a soft spot for it, much like one would for a pet. This suggested that Experiment 1166 could be trained, indicating it had emotions and a capacity for fear. Dr. Harley Sawyer saw this as progress, noting that while still in its early stages, the experiment was heading in the right direction, offering plenty of insights to improve the next iteration. In short, Yarnaby will be kept in isolation at this stage, with Dr. Harley Sawyer as the only person permitted direct access. Given Yarnaby's unpredictable nature, and considering Dr. Sawyer's importance to the project, he wanted security measures in place whenever he interacted with Experiment 1166. His end goal was to ensure that upon completion of the test, Yarnaby would know no one but him, making Dr. Sawyer its entire world. The final note is a weekly report indicating that Experiment 1166 is tested each week to observe any behavioral changes or improvements. Dr. Carmine McCabe is currently in charge of overseeing Yarnaby. From this report, we also learned that Yarnaby was created in August 1990, with the report itself dated October 16, 94. Yarnaby is in terrible shape. It eats little, is lethargic in its cell, and performs poorly on all physical tests. Dr. Harley Sawyer has stopped visiting Yarnaby, yet it still waits, hoping to see him again. Without the familiar presence of the Sawyer, 1166 has lost its sense of purpose. It sits still, watching and listening, often reacting aggressively whenever approached. Animals face sadness differently than humans. If a dog's owner does, it will wait in the spot with the strongest scent, hoping its owner will someday return. An emptiness forms inside, and unable to do more, it circles that emptiness, or worse, falls into it. Yet, while it shows animal-like gestures and behavior, 1166 still retains a trace of humanity within. Whatever human instincts remain allow 1166 to feel fear. It's been isolated for far too long beyond recovery. It was created for a singular purpose, stemming from the paranoia and ego of its creator. Thus, Yarnaby was destined to be a failure from the start. Since Dr. Carmine is a lower-level researcher, she lacks the authority to determine 1166's fate. Only Dr. Harley Sawyer can make that decision. For now, she can only watch as the poor creature waits day and night for the Sawyer, the one person it considers its owner, who likely no longer cares about it. It's hard not to feel sorry for Yarnaby. Additionally, the report bears a symbol we've seen before, indicating it originates from the deepest level of the Playtime factory. I'll go out on a limb and say that Yarnaby might be the final boss of Chapter 4. We may face off against this forsaken toy, driven by its obsession with the Sawyer. Alright, that's HoniGAME's analysis of Experiment 1166, the new creature set to appear in Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, as well as the latest images from Poppy Playtime ARG. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a comment, like, share, and hit the subscribe button for HoniGAME. For now, goodbye and see you in the next video.